Hi, I'm Brian. Welcome to Autogefühl. So, it's been 2 years since we first got a look at this car. That was in Geneva, and back then it was just a concept. Since then, surprisingly, it's managed to make it all the way through to production with only a very few changes. That's extremely unusual for Volkswagen. Well, what they were looking for was something that would sit slightly above the Passat, a very well-performing, but some would say slightly less than exciting car. They wanted something that was big, roomy, spacious, but still powerful and suggestive that underneath it all was still a sports car. Well, that's a lot to ask. Let's see how they got on. So now, in full HD, full screen, and full detail, let's go. The new look of the Arteon is quite a departure for Volkswagen from its traditional, more angular front-end look, and they're really hoping that you're going to like it because this could turn out to be the new face for their entire lineup. You can tell that there are some significant aesthetic differences here, but the Arteon comes in 3 different flavours. The base model is called the Arteon, the one up from that is the Elegance, and the top is the R-Line, which we have here. So you can notice those differences in several different places. We have large C-shaped air intakes at both sides of the car. It's 187 in width, or 6'1", and that, combined with these horizontal lines across the front, and this additional bonnet strip, really make the car look low on the road and really enhance the feeling of sportiness. Talking of these chrome strips, they run right the way through from the radiator and straight into the lights, which are full LED as standard. That's a nice touch. You can also see that we have some sensors across the front and a forward-facing camera. These chrome strips run the entire width of the car and head straight into the full LED headlights, which I'm happy to tell you are standard on all models. The first thing that really strikes you about the side profile of this car is quite what a good job Volkswagen have done with the styling of it. It really does look sporty, and the styling is very distinctive and unique, I think, from the Volkswagen lineup. They've made a great deal of effort to integrate the entire car, so it really does feel like it belongs together. And nowhere is that better demonstrated than this character line. It cuts right the way from the bonnet, right the way down the side of the car, and finishes right at the back in the headlights. The car in total is 4.86 meters or 15'11" in length, and it's huge. But take a look at this. The overhangs at both the front and the rear are just 48 centimeters or 1.5 feet in total, and that's because they've worked really hard to push this wheelbase as far out as they can get it. And that's in order to maximize the interior space that's available both for passengers and for luggage. It also doesn't do a bad job of making the handling quite nice as well. Coming slightly further back, we can see some of the touches that make this the R-Line. We have a signature strip in the door, and then lower down, we have a chrome strip that runs the entire length of the base. If we take a quick look at the wheels, you can see that these are 20-inch alloys. Now, the R-Line only comes as standard with 18-inch, but I think you can agree from looking at the profile, the 20 inches don't look bad at all. Now, the concern with going for a larger wheel on a car like this is that you will suffer a little bit in ride comfort. And although they did their best to convince us that this wasn't the case, you absolutely could feel the bumps a little bit more pronounced because of these larger wheels. But if you want to get the best of the sporty elements of the car, it might not be a bad investment. I've already let you know that I'm quite a big fan of the aesthetics of this car, but it's good to know that even Volkswagen aren't perfect. If we follow this chrome strip right the way round, now, it was Cornelius, our cameraman's keen eyes, that first picked up on this. The reason for this existing is that Volkswagen tell us it's impossible to manufacture this chrome section as one piece. So they had to fit a line in there somewhere, and the choice was between here at the back or the B-pillar in the middle. They decided to go with the back, but it does create something of a mismatch between the stripping here and the line of the door. It's very hard to see how they could have done it differently. I don't think it would have bothered me until Cornelius pointed it out. What do you think? Coming round to the back, we can see this really nice sporty fin at the top of the boot, just above the boot catch, which is the Volkswagen logo, which itself is above the name of the car. On the side, we can see full LED rear lights with, on the R-Line, dynamic turn indicators, and they're just above the 4Motion badge. That, of course, is Volkswagen's four-wheel drive. If we go slightly lower on the car, we can see some more special R-Line features, these chrome exhausts, which are on both sides of the car. At launch, you can have your choice between 3 engines. There's 1 petrol and 2 diesels. We have the larger of the 2 diesels that are available. That produces 240 horsepower and an unbelievable 500 Newton meters of torque. I don't have a 0 to 100 figure for you, but maybe we can find that out a little bit later. It tells you that it will give you a combined fuel efficiency of 5.9 litres. I don't know about that, we'll see. It's got a 7-speed DSG gearbox, that comes as standard with the engine, and a top speed of 245. But if you're not feeling the love for the diesel, there's also a very nice TSI. We drove that slightly earlier today. That produces 280 horsepower or 350 Newton meters of torque. Whichever way you go, I'm inclined to say if you want to buy a car like this, going with a big engine is probably going to be the right choice, because you want to have the power if you're going to have a car that looks like that. But if economy is the most important feature to you, the 3 engines at launch are only the start. There are 3 more coming, 2 more petrol and 1 more diesel, and they're all smaller and more economical. Now it's time to take a look at the interior of the car. But first, the key. As you can see, it's a fairly standard affair. There's nothing on it to indicate that it belongs to the Arteon, but it feels nice in the hand and it has a good bit of weight to it. We have a standard keyless entry on the car, but before we open up, I just wanted to tell you about these doors. They're all frameless, and that means that when you open up, the glass drops down just a little bit to allow you access. And then obviously when you close the door again, it has to go a little bit back up. When we open the car door, the first thing we notice is this stainless steel strip. That is just for the R-Line. While we're down here, let's have a look at the controls for the seat. All of the Arteons, no matter which one you order, come with what they call semi-electric seats. Obviously this has the fully loaded one. You can see here we have the memory functions, we have back massage function, and we also have the controls for the seat and the lumbar support. Coming round, let's take a look at the door. We have some sort of woven aluminium look effect. Also looks a little bit like silver carbon fiber. Chrome effect door release, standard controls for both lock and unlock, and the windows and the mirrors below. Reasonable storage under that. You can certainly fit a decent sized bottle of water in there and a couple of extra things besides. So let's take a look around the cockpit and see what else we have. Well, standard again across all of the Arteons, no matter which line you pick, is a leather stitched steering wheel. We, in this car, have a display which I'll be coming onto a little bit more later, but that's not standard. We have a soft touch plastic dashboard, speaker grille up top, and because it's the R-Line, we have metal finish on the pedals below. If you remember the front of the car, there's been quite a lot of effort made to make sure that the interior matches the exterior, and you can see that here with these chrome strips that run the full length of the dashboard. They're intended not just to create synchronicity with the front, but also to make it look as if the air vents run the entire length of the dash. They don't, of course, there are 4, but I like the way that this makes the whole front look uniform, and that's echoed with this metal strip underneath. Volkswagen say that they want this car to be more emotional, and that's really what they're going for with their cars going forwards. To me, this looks conservative, it looks clean, and it looks precise. And I don't mind that because it echoes the driving experience, but I don't know that I'd say it's emotional. What do you think? One of the most exciting things about the new Arteon is, of course, all of the new technology. And before we get a chance to try that out while we're driving, let's take a quick look first. So we have the 12.3-inch digital display, which does not come as standard but is fitted on this car. Also fitted is the head-up display. Well, I don't know how you feel about head-up displays, but for me they're at their best when they're featured with an analog control set. Here I have the ability to change the controls to look exactly the way that I want and display the information I need, so I find the head-up display a little bit of a redundant gimmick. You may be familiar with a digital display from other current Volkswagens, and really not much has changed in order for it to fit into the Arteon. There are a couple of new symbols that demonstrate some of the new technology, which we'll take a look at while we're driving. But just for fun, let's have a quick look and see how we're getting on with our economy. Volkswagen claims that this engine, which is the top diesel, can achieve 5.6 litres in mixed use. Well, I can tell you that we've been fairly gentle. I don't think we've done any extreme acceleration, and so far we're producing 6.8. That's not bad. I would hope for a little better, but we'll check it again later and see how we do. The standard infotainment system that comes with the car is the composition media. This isn't it. The composition media is an 8-inch screen with buttons. If you want the one up from that, you also will get navigation, but this is the Discover Pro, and it's the largest one that you can get. It's 9.2 inches across the multi-touch display, and new also includes gesture motions. Now, I've tried these a little bit while we've been driving around. I haven't been really brilliantly convinced, but just to give you an idea of how they're supposed to work, obviously you also have a screen that recognizes when your hand is close, and then in theory, there we are. We can swipe across screens. I still think that that's really just more of a gimmick at this stage though, because when you want it when you're driving, sometimes it doesn't quite work, the sensor doesn't quite pick up on it. So that may improve with software updates. Then again, I'm sure it would also improve with user experience as well. So talking about the infotainment system, obviously we have the ability to fully connect with mobile phones. We have Wi-Fi available in the car. That's through a data plan that you provide, of course. You put your own SIM card in and you can connect it to the internet. You have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, you have MirrorLink, You can connect your phone via Bluetooth for the music functions. Really, there isn't anything that I can think of that you can do with a mobile phone in a car that this car doesn't do. So of course, we connected our car to the phone and saw how well it got on. The answer was it was really pretty straightforward. The menu system is not hard to navigate, and once you've set yourself up to use your phone with the car, it's really pretty straightforward. You simply access the mobile hotspot, look for the settings, change the password to something you can actually remember, and then put your phone to connect it. Talking about mobile phones brings me to really my first bugbear with the car. In a car this size, I don't expect to be wanting for storage. And if I'm connecting my mobile phone, I need to have somewhere to put it. In this car, logically, you would expect that that would go here. Well, that's not happening. As you can see, this is a Nexus 5X. There isn't enough space for it in either orientation. And if you have a larger iPhone or a larger tablet, well, good luck. So the only other place that you can put it is these cup holders. Well, I'm not going to want to do that if I have drinks, or back here in the storage compartment. Now, there is a USB charge point back here and also an aux in for the stereo if you want to add your music that way. And those are nice touches, but for me, I need this space to be clear for other things I actually need to be in there. So there really is no natural place to put your phone in this car, and I think that's a little short-sighted. As for the stereo in the car, standardly it comes with an 8-speaker version. Here we have the top model that has 10 speakers and also the subwoofer in the boot that we saw earlier. We've checked it out while we've been driving around. Cornelius says it's very good. I say it's just good. Maybe I'm being a little bit too picky, but really, I think if you're going to have the top version of the stereo, it should really do something special for you. And I have to be honest, it didn't. Cornelius thought that I was being too picky because of the road noise from those big 20-inch wheels. And he might be right. They do make a little bit more noise than you really could expect. But still, if you're going to get the top stereo system, it should be brilliant. And for me, it was only okay. Maybe if you take it for a test drive, you should check it out and see what you think. One of the nice features that we have in our car is a triple climate zone. That means we have climate controls not just for the driver and the passenger, but also for the rear as well. So everyone in the car can get just the temperature they're looking for. We have fairly standard Volkswagen temperature controls here, and we also have heated seats in this model. The problem with making your car a fastback is, of course, that you risk compromising yourself for headroom at the rear. Well, I'm 5'10" or 1.78 m, but I do have a particularly long torso. Let's have a look and see how I get on in the back. Well, there's that roof that we were talking about. I have a feeling that if you're over 6 feet, this car is going to compromise you a little bit. I can only really be properly comfortable in this car if I slouch down a little bit, and then I really need this legroom. Now, this legroom's very important because this seat is set for me. This seat next to me is set for Cornelius, our cameraman, and he is over 6 foot. So if I slide over here, we can get a much more realistic idea of how much legroom there is. And I'm happy to tell you, because of that enormous wheelbase, look at this. Huge amounts of space. I can almost cross my legs, which is really fantastic. The seats themselves are very comfortable. They are selling this car very hard on the idea that it's a 5-seater. My only question really about that is, are you really going to want to travel any kind of distance in the middle seat of this car? Well, not unless you are a very small person. So I think comfortably you're going to be able to seat 4 people, and just make sure they're not too tall. We've got some nice discrete controls for the lighting back here, and it shows off the special black roof lining that we have for the R-Line very nicely too. Looking slightly lower down, you can see that also we have heating controls and vents for the rear, and I'm very happy to see that our power needs have been properly thought of. We have a full charging point here, a 12-volt adapter here, and a USB charge point. Fantastic. It's so nice to see that the rear seat passengers have been properly thought of, and they won't need to take up your USB charge points in the front of the car. We have standard anchor points for 2 child seats in the back, and a very useful armrest in the middle with cup holders. And okay, so I know it's not exactly a new idea, but I still really appreciate it being included. It really can be very useful to get things from the back without leaving the car, especially when it's raining. Let's take a look back here and see what's hiding away. We have an automatic boot open, and behind it we have a whopping 563 litres of load space. I'm going to climb in just to show you what that really looks like. It's actually pretty comfy back here. Well, we've got some tether points for rear fitted child seats. We've got some luggage straps down at the bottom, and slightly further back we have handy hooks for shopping bags. I'm going to climb back out just to show you what's underneath here. There we are. That, of course, is where the spare wheel would go. In this car, that's taken up with the subwoofer for the stereo system. But you still have a little space for your tools. And we have a nice storage pocket here. But I'll tell you what there isn't back here, and that's any catches to let the seats down. And I think that's a real shame. But I'm going to go through the side just so I can flatten the seats and show you what that looks like. As you can see, that makes quite a bit of difference. So with all the seats folded flat, we have a maximum load space of 1,557 litres of room. Well, we know that the TSI petrol can do 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in about 5.6 seconds. But we have the TDI diesel producing 240 horsepower and 500 newton meters of torque. So let's see how we get on. First of all, let's make sure that we're in sport mode, and then let's go. Well, I make that a little bit slower than 5.6 seconds, but it was pleasing to drive. It gave me the power that I wanted. The traction control made sure that there was no slipping whatsoever. Really, I wouldn't need more than that, but it was living up to my sporty expectations. So, talking of drive, let's come back to the modes so you can see a little bit more about that. They're selectable from here, and while you're driving and you don't want to look at the screen, you can change between them using the mode button lower down on the console. We have Eco, Comfort, Normal, Sport, and Individual. The nice thing with Individual is you really can change all the parameters whatsoever. I think for general driving, Normal is absolutely fine. And this is where I come on to possibly my second gripe about this car. It's a personal thing, but whenever I hear Volkswagen R, I'm always thinking of the Golf R and what that does for me when I drive it. Now, because we're in the Arteon R-Line, I kind of expect that same big boost of performance. And of course, that doesn't happen. With the Arteons, starting at the base Arteon, then the Elegance, and then the R-Line, almost all of the changes are aesthetic. You don't gain anything in terms of performance. So that means you're not really benefiting from any more than you can get from the standard Arteon. So what does that translate to? Well, the drive is nice. Volkswagen claim that they have a body structure that is 10% more rigid than any of their competitors. I don't know how they assess that, but it does result in a very nice differential between the drive and the handling. I absolutely feel in control of the car, and the car is a pleasure to drive. The drive of the car itself is very pleasant. Both of the top engines that are currently available come with the DSG 7-speed gearbox, and although further on, when the lower powered ones are introduced, there will be more in the way of manual, to be honest, the point of this car is best expressed through the assistance systems, and if you want to get the best out of those, you're going to be needing the automatic gearbox. So I would strongly recommend that you go with it. It's a good solid gearbox. It interacts with the engine very nicely. You do get a little bit of lag, but that's automatic gearboxes throughout, I think, anyway. What I'm looking for from this car when I drive it is comfort, especially because being a GT, I'm expecting to take it longer distances, and I want to be comfortable while I'm doing that. It delivers that more than comfortably. The layout inside that looks very nice, works very well when you're driving. It doesn't distract you at all. I'm a big fan of the digital cockpit. It took me a while to get over the loss of the analog dials, but having done that, I really like being able to choose which information is displayed at what time. That works well. The infotainment system is great. There, I really do want my dials back. I'm not a fan of switching volumes using either the steering or having to find buttons down here. I don't want to look, I just want to twist. Maybe I'm just too old-fashioned in that regard. I guess this is the future. Everything else works just fine. There really is everything to like about this car. I'm just lacking a little bit to love. In much the same way that a Passat is a fantastic car, but it's difficult to get emotional about, I'm feeling the same thing about the Arteon. You know, they've told us in order to come and look at this car that emotion is the one thing that's been put in. And I see that with the styling. I'm just not finding it with the drive. So we know that the car handles well on beautifully wooded lanes, but how does it behave on the Autobahn? Well, for me, this is the home of this car. It's really happy driving here, and more importantly, the technology really gets a chance to shine. I'm currently driving on Autobahn just outside of Hanover, and as you might be able to see, the roads are pretty consistent with what you might expect for lunchtime. And that's a great place to show you just how good this technology is. I'm currently setting my speed to go with the traffic flow. So although this speed, there is no regulated speed for this road, obviously I can't drive that fast. And I've told my car that I wish to keep a close distance to the car in front, and it's regulating my speed accordingly to keep up with the flow of traffic. It really does feel effortless. The car is in complete control of the speed, but I still know that if I want to take over at any time, I can. So let's pull out and have a look and see how it handles maneuvers. Now you may be able to see that I have a blind spot warning on my mirror here, and every time a car is on my left-hand side or approaching me from the left, I get a nice orange glow to warn me of that. That's also reinforced by the steering. If I indicate so the car knows that I wish to move into the next lane, the steering will aggressively stop me from doing that if there is an obstacle, as there was just then. But time to show you about something that's not so good. As I look round to do one last safety check of my blind spot, I can see that possibly just because of my height and the position of the seat, unfortunately, you're almost completely obscured from seeing what's happening here. The reason for that is between the headrest and the extremely large B-pillar, you simply can't see. That puts an awful lot of trust in the technology, and making sure that your road awareness of exactly what's around you at all times is particularly good. But then that's true in any car. So now it's time to try out some of the new assistance systems on this vehicle. All of the Arteons come standard with progressive steering. Obviously that helps to adjust the steering ratio depending on what you're doing with the car, and they also come with driver alert. That system's been updated for the car. What that now means is that if you're driving and you take your hand off the wheel, or you're in some way distracted or unable to operate the vehicle, at first it will sound a warning, then it will sound a louder warning, then it will give you a tight pull on the seatbelt and sound a very loud warning. If you ignore all of that, the car assumes you're incapacitated. It slows the car down, looks to see if it's safe to pull into the slow lane, and activates the hazard warning lights prior to stopping safely. Now, obviously we can't try out that technology. for safety reasons, but I think it could be very helpful in future. What we can try out today is the new cruise control feature that everybody's so excited about. We've already had the chance to try it, and now we're going to show you what we think of it. So first of all, we activate the system, and then there are two different modes that we can have our cruise control in. There's standard cruise control, or there's also now speed limiter. That's particularly useful if you're really concerned about going over a certain speed limit by manually doing it yourself. Here, the restriction is 30. So if I set to 30 kilometers per hour, you can see that on the digital display, I now have a red mark instead of a green one. So rather than telling me what the cruise control is set to, that is the highest that the speed will be delivered when I put my foot on the accelerator. I actually have my foot flat down now, but nothing is happening because I'm traveling at 30. That's quite reassuring, particularly if you're in something like highway construction and you feel you're being pressured from behind to go over the speed limit. That simply isn't possible with this. But that said, if you find yourself in an emergency situation where you need a quick response, if you punch your foot down, the car will automatically override that and give you the power that you want. The second mode that's available to us is the ACC. That's adaptive cruise control. And what's so clever about this system is it doesn't only work with the car's sensors, but it also works with the car's navigation system. That means it's not only looking and reading the signs, but it understands the road conditions that are coming up. That really does make a difference to the drive. If I set the system to on, I'm just going to take a left turn right now, and the car knows I'm turning left, so it's automatically slowing down. I'm going to turn here, and then I hit the resume button. It knows that the speed that I'm allowed to drive on this road is 70 kilometers per hour. So this is all the car. Let's take a look and see how the other systems work in concert with that. Well, we have no white line on the side, so it wouldn't be safe for me to take my hands off the wheel, but I can tell you that if I did, and we had a white line there too, the car would keep me within the lane. That said, it doesn't want you to let go of the wheel, so it will give you a warning and tell you to put your hands back. Now we have another sign coming up telling us that this is 70 as well, so the car won't change speed. So here the speed limit is 70, and that's exactly what the car is driving. But in a moment, I'm going to want to turn right, and the car needs to adjust its behavior. So let's see what happens. It's already slowing down. It's spotted the sign ahead, and now we can see that the car has dropped down to 50. I've done nothing to the car at all. This is all the car's intelligent cruise control. So I'm telling the car I want to make a turn. It knows this, it's slowing me down. I've approached a stop sign, and I do have to tell you that the car does not acknowledge stop signs. As with all driver assistance systems, they are very keen to point out to you that you are still in control of the car and therefore completely responsible for anything you do whilst driving it. But it does make things a lot easier, particularly if you're driving around somewhere that you're not used to and it has a variable speed limit. It takes a lot of the stress away from you. So right now we're back in a 70 zone, and I know just up here it drops right down to 30. So let's see what happens. I have my hands on the wheel, but my feet are completely away from the pedals. We have driven this route, by the way, so I know that this is a safe road. And we're reducing speed because coming up ahead we have a change of speed. And we've comfortably and safely dropped down to 50. This obviously is able to use the engine much more efficiently because of its working with the maps. It's able to see what the road conditions are coming up, not only what the road conditions are immediately. And because of this, it can apply the brakes with plenty of notice when it's needed. And perfectly, we're now going down to 30, exactly as the sign came up. So obviously we've had a lot of time to put some serious miles into this, and I have to say the system works very well. The only thing that I'd be slightly concerned about is that people may rely on it a little bit too much. And obviously, it's important to remember that the driver is always in control of the vehicle. You can get a little bit sidetracked and think that the vehicle is doing everything for you and then not be ready if something happens that you need to respond to. So it's very important with all of this new technology that it's used as safely as possible. So what did we think about the new Arteon? Well, let's talk about the positive things first. You really have to appreciate the styling that Volkswagen have put into this car. It's fantastic from whichever side you look at it from. The front, the side, the back, they all look great. And I'm really hoping that this is a taste for things to come as they look through their lineup coming forwards. But pricing, we have to talk about it. 39,000 is the entrance price for the Arteon. If you want the next level up, that's the Elegance, that'll cost you 49. And if you want the R-Line, which is what we have here, that's going to set you back 52,000. And don't forget, that's before you've added any extras. The car only comes in a choice of one of two colours as standard. That's either white or grey. Not this grey, this is perlite grey, and that's going to cost you more. These are 20-inch wheels. They cost more than the standard 18-inch that the R-Line comes with, and so on and so on. Now, I'm not saying that the car isn't necessarily worth the money. It's a really great car. I'm only saying that it is a lot. And given the position in the market that Volkswagen are expecting this to sit in, it has a lot of competition at that price point. This was designed as sort of a sideways replacement for the CC. And I think it's done a really fantastic job in terms of entering the Volkswagen lineup at a new place and setting a new standard. The only problem is there is a lot of very good competition at this price point. And if you want all of this technology and you want to pay less money, there are some very good cars also available on the market. The drive is excellent. It's exactly what you would expect from a Volkswagen. The only thing it's missing is a little bit of sports, which go along with this fantastic chassis. But overall, I would say the car is superb, but a little bit expensive. If you're interested in the Arteon, I absolutely recommend a test drive. It is a good car. There's no question about that. And I think you can't get the best out of it unless you opt to spend a bit more money on those assistance systems. You can have the adaptive cruise control for just about an extra 500. But you may as well get it with the driver assistance package, which comes with a whole range of different features, and that comes in at about €1,500. Our car had 20-inch wheels, but we both felt that was a little bit of overkill. There was a lot of road noise, and on the bigger bumps, a little bit of ride as well. So I would suggest going with the smaller wheels, and you'll save yourself a little bit of money. Overall, we thought the car was excellent. It just didn't deliver quite enough in terms of the sporty drive that the exterior promises. But you can't have everything. And if you're looking at this sector of cars, we definitely recommend that you take a look. If you have any questions, please put them below. Meanwhile, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope we'll see you again soon.